Alrighty, welcome to Hello Chaos, the unfiltered podcast for founders in the messy middle, we call it. No fairy tales here, just the real grind, the grit, and chaos of what it takes to start and build a business. Oh, today I am very excited to have on our show global credibility expert Mitchell Levy. He is a two-time TEDx speaker, an international best-selling author of over 60 books, a certified stakeholder-centered coach, and an executive coach at Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches. Welcome to the show, Mitchell.
Jennifer, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah. Great for I'm excited to have you on. I think our conversation is going to be um really fun and actually informative. So,
Actually,
yeah,
let's make sure we do it.
I
Okay,
think
I'm
you
ready.
will. So, get me started. Get me started on what brought you to being a coach? How did you enter into this world of a speaker, a coach, an author of 60 books? Like, that is a lot.
Yeah. So actually, at the moment, that's currently 65 books.
What?
Let's do the bigger picture, a minute ish of what people call important. So I've been in Silicon Valley for 39 years, happily married for 37, have a 27-year-old son who's amazing. This is my wife, but she is not 27. The math there just wouldn't work.
Right, that
I've started 20-ish companies. I've sat on the board of a NASDAQ firm, created executive business programs. One of the companies is a book publishing firm, and we have published over 750 books. So when you run a book publishing firm, whenever you have an idea for a book, you have the publisher to publish it. So that's one of the reasons for that. What got me into coaching, one of the companies I ran was a company called CEO Networking.
okay.
We had provided basically like a Vistage. So
Okay.
opportunity for CEOs to get together. And so by definition, that's coaching. Every author I published, that's coaching. When I sat on the board of a public company, that's coaching. So in 2021, I was asked to join the Marshall Goldsmith 100 Coaches. And although I had not called myself a coach up until then, I'm like, I guess I really am a coach.
Right.
So then I got certified in a methodology. So just so I had at least one. And it's been a fun journey. And particularly what's interesting about fun journeys, and this is true for any entrepreneur, if you see an opportunity, it's amazing. And that opportunity has a shelf life. So when I was at Sun Microsystems for 9 years. Sun Microsystems is a company that really helped commercialize the internet. In 1996 is when the dot-com started. It went from 96 to 2000. 97, I left Sun, became an entrepreneur. And and all you had to do in those days is spell the word e-commerce, and people would spend you money. Just throw money over the table at you. So I was speaking at events, I was teaching at a university, I was running conferences and doing uh, those days I call it more consulting versus coaching, but
Right.
doing both consulting and coaching. And in 2000 to 2001, when the dot bust came, all of a sudden my six-figure business went to zero,
Yeah.
right? So
I
chaos.
remember those days. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. No, here's the cool part. I learned some good lessons. One lesson is that the most important one, I think, and this is what I think we all as humans need to understand. You're not defined by your job, right? And so I didn't do anything that caused the business to go away. The world changed. So anyone whose job is being replaced by AI, you're not doing anything to have your job replaced. What you should be doing is what's next? How can you now
Right.
use that technology? Right.
Right. Right.
I'll tell you one other quick story, and I'll let you ask a question. So the other thing I learned during that time frame, that was the same time I was running the CEO networking company. And I was the largest rainmaker of the three of us who were partners. I was making 60,000 a year. And it compared to the time it took to make that and the other things I was doing, it was so small.
Yeah.
I was just about to kick it out and throw it away. And then all of a sudden my e-commerce revenue went to zero. And I'm like, yeah, it's important to have eggs, not all your eggs in one basket. And
Right.
another interesting lesson I've tried to maintain.
like different revenue streams, right?
Absolutely.
So, in your coaching business and stuff, who are you coaching? Other founders and startups, or are you really helping advise see the C-suite in more established companies?
So it's
Like, where do you
interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
no, that's a great question. So you had asked me because my tagline that here says,
Yeah.
"What's your CPOP?" What I'm going to say is CPOP stands for Customer Point of Possibilities, and is how one can articulate the playground they play in. Essentially, how they can articulate their purpose in less than 10 words. And so I want to share two because it'll answer your question in two different ways.
Yeah.
So, primarily from a coaching perspective, my CPOP is 9 words long. 5,000 CEOs leading the future with executive abundance. But what I
Okay.
want you to think about, that's a playground.
Yeah.
If you are a potential referral partner or you're a potential prospect, the first question you're going to ask is what's executive abundance, right?
Right.
And we'll come back to that, right?
Yeah.
So, but that's the goal. And I unlocked this superpower of doing this when I interviewed 500 thought leaders on credibility between 2019 and 2020.
Now, what sparked that? Was that just like a passion part of like, I
Uh,
want to uncover this? Like, what sparked you to go and interview on that particular
Got it. Oh, I
topic?
love that. Great
Yeah.
question. Now, by the way, I have to come back to my second CPOP, so we'll come
Yeah.
back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I remember I mentioned that my business went away because of the dot bust.
Right.
Well, another business that I started in 2005, the publishing business, I knew eventually would go away. As a matter of fact, I thought it would go away quicker than it did because as I started seeing the marketplace, there are many companies who are pushing the opportunity for people to be self-publishers.
Okay.
And what ultimately ended up happening with that business is COVID hit it with a truck and then Amazon ran over it 2 or 3 times. Right? Because what happened is I had a business that I'd go after the speakers and consultants who were speaking and consulting or coaching at companies. And so, I'd make a little bit up front, pretty much like somewhere between 50 to 60% margins on
Okay.
that up front. But the real money came from making money on the back end on book sales. And so we would just make sure the books would get to the companies on time. And when COVID happened and nobody was traveling, that revenue, nice recurring revenue stream went away.
Right.
Then when COVID happened and everyone had more time, that's when everyone started adopting Amazon's desire that you become a self-publisher. So in 19, I didn't predict COVID, by the way. In
Right.
2019, I will, yeah, it's close. It's really close. Okay, I've published at the time somewhere close to 750 books, and I asked myself the question, what do my authors want? What are they looking for? Who is that background, and what is it that they wanted? And the answer is they wanted credibility. So natural desire went to the dictionary, and I go, what's credibility mean?
Right.
And I was unhappy with the definition. Right. So the definition in the dictionary, and if you don't mind, I don't have to share my screen. You'll see a picture pop up. I'm going to find it in the background so you can see it. What happened was the definition in the dictionary was the quality in which one is trusted. And what I unraveled in the interviews is if you could see here, it's the quality that's one trusted, known, and liked.
Okay.
And what's interesting, and there are 10 values associated with it. So I essentially spent 50,000 bucks. I interviewed 500 people during a 1 year period, and it was an incredible transformation of me and who I was and what I thought the world could be.
So how did you find who you're gonna interview? Did you have a tick list of, like, "Here are people that I admire, I really wanna know," or were you just, like, random, whoever, if they kinda match this, title, this role that, I wanna talk to them? Did
It was
you
closer to random.
Okay.
And my second CPOP, so let me share with you my
Yeah.
second customer point of possibilities. This one's fun, by the way. You ready? Business owners tired of slimy LinkedIn sales tactics.
Yes, that should be mine.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes, that should be everybody's.
It is everyone. And if you're in the business world today and your clients are also businesses, there is one game in town, and that is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if you're going to use LinkedIn, there are so many people out there who are quote unquote experts who are going to sell you
My
on
gosh,
what
my
does it
inbox
mean to be
is
successful.
flooded with junk.
And many of those are delivering slimy LinkedIn sales tactics. So what I do is I've got an audience in the community and I'm helping people understand, but what are we talking about? We're talking about building relationships. So how do you build relationships on LinkedIn? Part of it is the types of tools and approaches, and now you use that same methodology for securing the 500 interviews.
So you said that the answers that you uncovered really shaped or reshaped you and molded you in a different way that surprised you. What did you discover most about yourself in that journey? And then what was the impact that that had? But then what did you discover most about yourself?
I don't know about most, so let
Mm,
me
yeah.
we'll share one or two, and we'll stop anytime you want. I so my undergraduate degree is a Bachelor of Science in Stochastic and Deterministic Models of Operational Research.
Okay.
So what does that
That's a
mean?
mouthful. Yeah.
That's
What
a
the hell
mouthful,
does
and as
that
long as
mean?
I could say that, I'm still doing well, right? So it means I was taught how to model people and systems and improve them.
Okay.
So when I went to my team and I said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna interview. We're not gonna hire anyone new. We're gonna interview 500 people, and you guys are gonna do this." Like it was almost like you can imagine a team meeting and the oxygen being sucked out of the air. It was just like that. And I said, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll sit with you guys. We'll do the first 10 or 20 together. I'll do all the work with you. And then we'll put processes and procedures so you can follow them." And then it was like, oh, that was good. Right. And the truth is, I wasn't entirely sure the metrics I was going to use when I did the interviews. So that first week, when I interviewed 10 people, typically when I started rolling, I was interviewing between 12 to 14 people every Tuesday and 12 to 14 people on Wednesday. And that would be, and then we would just do that. But the first week I kept it down. The truth is, I'm not sure it was the first week or first 2 weeks, but it was 10 people. And here's what happened. Some people came late. A couple of people weren't prepared. I don't think we had a no show, but prepared enough that they didn't want to. I suggested we didn't go forward and that they should practice more and come back. Right. And all of a sudden I realized there's a couple things happened. First, I was offended. Like, hey, I'm interviewing you and you're not on time. Like, I should be offended. I'm like, first of all, I realized this was not about me. This is about me understanding what is the word credibility. Now, the second thing that happened is, and if I'm going to share these three things again, under the under the pillar of being liked, very easy to be liked, right?
Mhm.
Do two things. You're doing one of them right now. You're sharing my cred dust.
Right.
That is sharing the ideas, thoughts, and actions of others, right? But the second thing is showing respect. Now, here's the interesting part. Respect to me, particularly on a podcast, coming early, coming prepared, coming with your heart.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I had
that's good.
people show up who were just monotone, who were engineering. I didn't feel their energy at all. Like, dude, I can't see you. Right? If you
Right.
if you're gonna come up with like, if you don't show me you, how do I know that's really you? And they were just reading pat answers,
Yeah.
right? And
Like
so
almost like they wanted to please you. Let me give you an answer that's
yeah.
not really from the heart or what I've absorbed. I'm just telling you what you kind of want to, I think I, what you want to hear.
So
Was it?
Jennifer, before the interviews or before that week, I was like many other maybe male entrepreneurs, maybe female entrepreneurs overall, but the meeting started when I got there and I was always like, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes late. All of a sudden, I realized how wrong I was for my entire life. And that was important is no matter who I was with, that if I said yes to a meeting, they deserve the respect for me to show up a little bit early and prepare ahead of time. That was a great for me, that was a great lesson.
Okay. No, That's a good lesson I think we've learned in agency business and, we serve clients and companies is not just be on time. On time means to be at least 5, 10 minutes early for setup, for whatever.
Because
Things
as
happen.
you would say, chaos happens.
Chaos happens. I like what you said, the cred dust. I've never heard that phrase. I might be stealing that. That's so
No, please do. And here's the interesting part. So what I did is I invented some terms. Cred dust is one of them. And one of my friends mentioned to me, hey, listen, if you want to actually be known for a phrase, go out, grab the URL. You could decide to copyright it or not copyright it. So if you actually Googled cred dust, CREDUST, theoretically, whatever engine you have will bring you to creddust.com, which is my now dictionary definition of what the word is. And then it'll show you the other words that I came up with.
yeah.
So it's what was fascinating about that. I'm going to fast forward and give you something
Yeah,
else
please,
because
yeah.
you're curious, right? So
I'm very yeah.
I started a nice 6-figure business focused on selling credibility, and I ran it for 3.5 years. Then what happened is I realized that I was making money, but not having the impact I thought I should. Now, the impact, let's be really clear,
Yeah.
the TEDx I did associated with my interviews was titled, We Are Losing Our Humanity, and I'm tired of watching it happen.
And
So,
that was one of the outcomes
and
from the
that was,
credibility
thank you.
interviews?
Thank you. That was one of the outcomes was like, it is so easy to be humane to people. Why aren't more of us nicer? And by the way, I wasn't mean before because I have a really good wife who trained me well, but I wasn't always as credible as I could be. I didn't
Yeah,
really realize what that meant.
yeah.
So,
It's Go ahead, go ahead. No, no.
no, I was going to continue that story, but you
No,
could give your
please,
thought.
please do. No, I
So,
was just
so what happened is I'm like, I'm not having the impact. It's not world changing. I can make money, but not world changing. And I go, well, what did I really get from the interviews? And this thing of clarity. Now, by the way, if you want to, we could do it live or we could do it afterwards, but I'm happy to sit with you and give you your CPAP, right? Now, I don't actually give it to you. I listen to you and then I tell you what you said. So I created a clarity certification business. Once again,
okay.
built it up really quick to 6 figures. And then a year ago, I had a marketing friend of mine slap me in the face in a really good way, not physically, by the way. And
This is aha. This is like your big aha.
this was I've had many different aha moments in life, but this was one guy by the name of Ken Cook. And Ken gets on the line with me and he goes, Mitchell, I know every living marketing legend alive today. There's nobody that does clarity the way you do. I'm like, cool. Like ego, you know?
Yeah.
He goes, remind me how many people don't have it. So one of the stats that came out of it is 98% of entrepreneurs, of business people, of businesses, 98% don't have clarity.
I believe it.
He goes, all right, Mitchell, I'm going to tell you something you don't like. Okay. So Jennifer, here I am. He made my head really big. He says, I'm going to tell you, I couldn't possibly, you and I are fast thinkers. I couldn't possibly imagine what it was, but what I want you to think about is a balloon and a pin. And we put the pin in the balloon, like
And the
almost disappears immediately. He did that with 3 sentences to me. 3 sentences.
I can't wait.
Oh, he first of all, he tried to couch it by saying, Mitchell, this is marketing speak.
Okay.
That still didn't work. He
Yeah.
goes, all right, Mitchell, you're world class at something that 98% of your audience doesn't have. They don't have it because they either think they have it and they don't, or they don't think they need it. Either way, that number sucks. And he was not wrong, by the way. And so what he did is say, hey, let me throw you a lifeline. So he threw me a lifeline immediately. And then the next morning I woke up with the next one. The lifeline, he said, is Mitchell, look me in the eyes. What could you do for me right now that'll put money in my pocket tomorrow? And immediately, executive presence. Having done the work I did with LinkedIn, having helped all these authors be successful, having sat on the board of a public executive presence. That is what I've morphed into executive abundance. But the real wake up call was the next day. And I'm going to say something that And I knew my whole life, but only started practicing a year ago. Okay, ready? This is like this is a big bomb drop. But you know it, right? We know what it is. It's sell them what they want, deliver what they need.
That's right.
Now, here's the thing. Although I've known this my whole life, I spent a year focused on credibility, research, 3.5 years running a business, a year focused on clarity, which meant I spent 5.5 years of my life on what people need, not what they want.
Mhm. Yeah.
So now my CPOP, the first one, basically fast growing CEOs leading the future with executive abundance, that's absolutely what they want. Right? We could go into that towards the end. The one that is focused on the LinkedIn side,
Yeah.
business owners avoiding slimy LinkedIn sales tactics is also what they want.
Right.
Right. And it was so interesting. So now when I look at opportunities, I look at, and when I create CPOPs for people, because they get so excited about what people need, I go, they absolutely need that. But what is it they really want? What are they
Mhm.
asking for? Right. What is
Right. You have to read
and
between the
in your
lines. Yeah.
tell me more, which is the concept is simply CPOP, tell me more. But you want to capture people in the first 1, 2, or 3 seconds.
So what's your CPOP? Is that like your phrase? Or is that something that came out of one of like the coaching certificate kind of that school? Or is this is a Mitchell Levy thing?
This is a Mitchell Levy thing. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you create that essence?
I don't know if I can answer the question. I don't know if there's a so when I made a decision that I was gonna interview 500 thought leaders, I could answer an interesting let me give you a different story. I what I realized what I wanted to do is be able to ask 5 questions that people would answer in 10 minutes. When I do it now, I try to ask 5 questions and get it back in 5 minutes, right?
Okay.
And the first question I asked people was, "What is your CPOP?" However, how I defined it back then was customer point of pain. What's your customer point of pain? And during the interviews, I had a couple of people say, "Well, I don't talk about pain. I don't focus on that, blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And so then I would couch it, well, pain, purpose, pleasure, all that
Right.
stuff, right? And when I was done with the interviews, I had a guy by the name of Raji Sethi. And Raj was, I had published a book, I'd done the TEDx. I was talking to Raj, and he allowed me to videotape me doing the CPOP exercise. And we did the whole thing. Goes, Mitchell, you're going to be great at this, and it really was. We gave him something amazing. His CPOP is game changers looking for their secret sauce. Like, what a cool CPOP, right?
Yeah.
And and so I shared him his CPOP, and then he comes back and I said, "So how'd it go?" He goes, "No, it went great. I love it. I'm using it." And then he says, "Mitchell, I don't care if you continue to call it customer point of pain. I'm calling it customer point of possibilities." And I want you to recognize 500 people, I called it customer point of pain, a podcast, TEDx talk, book. And all of a sudden, about 3 seconds later, I go, "You're right. So am I."
Yeah.
Because customer point of possibilities is so much more powerful and so much more descriptive.
Yeah.
So it
And
turns out
optimistic.
80% of the time the CPOP's about pain, but there are many times where there's an audience where you can't speak pain. You have to speak pleasure.
Right. No, no. It's interesting that's what my business is. I run a marketing and branding firm. My whole background, I call it agency person, but that's what we do better than most is that we try to find clarity around the brand and then clarity around how do then you take it to market to win and, have it all from strategy to execution to optimization under one roof, working with upward bound businesses. But it's interesting, like we see that all the time of people want clarity, but they don't think they need it. So we feel like we're sometimes swimming upstream of, they have to be in the right mindset. They have had to have felt pain to go, I don't really know what I'm doing to be able to reach out for help. So, uh, I'm with you. I want to talk more about, so your first TEDx talk was around, like you said, the outcome of those interviews of not seeing humanity. and not seeing what was the other TEDx talk on? Was that just purely on the C-pop
That was
and the
actually
power of the
so
C-pop?
so that was actually my second TEDx was
Okay.
"We're Losing Our Humanity." The first one was I got 2 books behind me. The first one I did was Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. And, that one has about 50,000, views. The other one has a 500,000. And what I'm gonna say somebody asked me the other day, "Is that TEDx, is that book still relevant?" And the answer is, starting in 2023, being a thought leader is no longer relevant because thought leadership is now ubiquitous.
Oh,
Anyone who wants to be a thought leader, at least on paper, all they have to do is be able to ask the right questions. You prompt the right AI engine and
hmm,
you're a thought leader.
yeah.
That's not the same as being the right thought leader in the room, which then says, well, what does it really mean? We need to be much more localized and much more focused on the audience, and they need to actually feel, feel,
That's what I was
taste.
like, how do you then you build credibility now? Because we've, you've built, um, the thought leadership to be that subject matter expert or whatever, and you do that via LinkedIn or whatever. But, yeah, you're right. If it's just AI prompted, how do you build credibility and trust
Doing this,
doing
relationships,
this? Yeah.
whether it's Zoom calls or sometimes phone calls or in person, but it's building relationships.
What so going back to I mean, you've led businesses, you started businesses, and now you're kinda doing this. I feel like you're in a joy spot of sharing your knowledge. You found many ahas in these, these moments of discovery. What has been the most challenging aspect of being a founder, running a business, when you sit with other businesses and coach them?
Uh,
What is, like, the biggest friction that you see on how to accelerate that business or how to
the
accelerate somebody in, that
No,
founder?
it's a great question. And by the way, I've had many ahas. That's actually the I've got many company names, but the official company name is called Think Aha. So that's the C corp, right?
Mine's Curiosity Inc., by the way.
Damn, love that. You and if I knew that, you should have said that up front. We would
I know, I was like,
absolutely been
"We're"
fast friends. Yeah. Um, it there are 2 different audiences I speak to, but let's first speak to the entrepreneurial audience. Actually, first let me say something that's valid for both. We have way too many marketing cookie cutter bullshit techniques that people apply.
Thank you. Yep,
And
100%.
what happens is the loud voices, the thought leaders, the influencers say this is it, and people go, they say jump, and you say how high, and they don't listen to their heart, right? So that's probably the biggest issue. Now let me give you something that's very specific to a business owner, someone who's very successful, or they've been successful at corporate and then they open up their own
Right,
one person shop.
right.
Now what happens there is they've never been taught how to do biz dev, right? And so first they start following people's marketing cookie cutter approach. And there's always some guy.
They chase the competitors. They
Yeah, there's
chase.
some girl
Yeah,
who has a $15,000 program, and it's chock full of all this stuff. And if you spend 15,000, you'll be making 6 figures, in 3, 4 months. And then they do that 2 or 3 times before they reach me, and they have no money left, but they weren't successful. So what happens is what I do, let's go into the LinkedIn program. What I help people do is get the clarity like you do. So they understand their CPOP. And if you know their CPOP, I know the playground they should play in. I know who they should be reaching out to, both as second level connections they should make first level, and as first level connections they should be having conversations with.
gotcha.
Now, what I can promise is I'm going to get the people who they think are their audience into the room with them. Here's what I can't promise. They have a product that is interesting enough to sell. They have the right price point and they know how to sell. Those 3 things. Now, all of those skill sets are learnable over time, but you need to practice.
Right.
Just takes ongoing practice. And that's for most people who are the difference between an entrepreneur and a wantrepreneur
Uh-huh.
is the entrepreneur takes action and they learn from their mistakes and they're curious to figure out why it didn't work and they then get to the next level.
That's right. Yep, yep. You move forward. You learn. I call it you learn, you relearn, you unlearn, you relearn again, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Now, on the corporate side, it's different. It's the same marketing cookie cutter stuff, and it's things like, well, if you're the CEO, HR has always done it this way. Or I have somebody who does it this way versus the way I wanted to get done. Aren't you the CEO? Okay. Or marketing either goes too strong or too soft.
Or
Because to me,
there's no intentionality. That's what we see.
yeah, to me, the
Yeah,
CMO should really be owning not just external communication, but internal
that's
communication.
right.
'Cause
Marketing is
how can
everything.
you
Yeah,
ensure that the brand happens externally unless the employees on the inside are acting that way, right? And so what does that mean? They have to be a real strong relationship with HR, which is a little bit more like a day-to-day tactical solution versus people say culture belongs in HR, and I go, "Yeah, your company's not gonna succeed."
nope, it does not. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, when we sit with companies, it's interesting. The ones that are ready for, and I put everybody through, I call brand therapy because that's what we end up coming. We're uncovering the ugly baby
Nice.
in that company because, but they usually come to us because they're looking for a website or because they need somebody to manage their social or because they're like, well, it's all a marketing checklist of tactics. But I always ask like, "Well, what are you trying to accomplish? What do where do you wanna move your brand forward from point A?" And they can't answer the question. "Well, who's your marketing director? Where's the action plan?" Or ask the marketing director, "Okay, you developed a plan. What is it based off of? What are you trying to reach?" "Oh, I don't know. I've just been doing this list because that's what we've always done." And we come in and it's interesting. So it happens all the time. This is where the aha comes up with, the C-suite and the leadership team. We put them through a brand therapy workshop series of, different activities. And by the end of, those sessions, we have everything and it's low tech too, because I think that's more powerful. Get whiteboard, sticky notes, um, paper a room. And all of a sudden they're looking around because we identify where the friction is. We help them uncover where they want to be to get clarity around who they are, where they want to go, how they want to stretch themselves, and have they already boxed themselves in, and then walk them through, okay, well, where's the biggest like friction points? And all of a sudden they're like, well, shit, it's not a website.
Right.
That's not why we're not. And most of the time, it is a combination of things. Yes, it's like inconsistency of the brand. There is either no story whatsoever of who they are. There's no clarity, or it's outdated. They're saying the same thing that everybody else in their category. So it's not a well defined brand, or it's outdated, or it's completely inconsistent across their website said something, social media has been rogue because it's, somebody's cousin, or we have a client that's like their 95-year-old mother is running their social media, and it's all over the place. Or we find that they really don't understand the category, the market they're in. There's a perception problem, there's an attitude problem of you've got to help talk about that category so that you make sense in it. Or it's fragmented. Everything is in silos. Social media has been done by this agency and SEO is done over here. And the in house people are really just working on proposals or trade show graphics, but there's really again, it's a checklist. And we come in and we're like, yeah, there is no consent, but we can work on those things. But your big friction points are you've got a leadership problem. You've got a team of people that and department heads that have no idea who you are,
By the way,
what you have,
you've now actually identified where it makes sense to bring
where
me in as an executive coach,
right, right.
right? And we would work well together that way.
Yeah. So that's kind of what, but we see that all the time of
It's crazy,
business
right?
owners. It is. It's so funny of we work with mostly small and medium size, I call it upward bound businesses. But our background is all working with big large brands, right? So we've seen it. We know the corporate language. We see what scalability can mean if you do it the right way, but small businesses don't have access to that knowledge. They get access to
Technically, they do today,
Not
with AI,
really,
what they have to do is ask the right
but
questions.
they don't know the right questions to ask.
Ah, right, right.
They don't even know where to begin to do they don't have that experience. So I'll give you an example. You know, we work with a Fortune 100 company. It's a global manufacturing company in their innovation lab. We help them do like innovation sprints and stuff like that to get clarity around some product innovations. But they had a partnership with Stanford University to go, let's take 600 students that are all learning, mastering AI, and let's put them against 20 to 30-year veterans in product development, engineering, in marketing, more strategy development. And let's have these exercises and let's see who comes back with the faster, more accelerator model of how to go to market. 300, 30 executives to 600 students. Who do you think won out?
Lean towards the students.
No, experience matters.
Experience matters. Interesting.
Yeah, and it was because they
How
knew
old were the students?
the college students. They
Oh,
were
never mind. I
they were
think mostly
Stanford,
executive
yeah.
ed.
Yeah,
So
no,
got it.
this is like Stanford undergrad. Some graduate students were in that, but it was still,
It was
it's
Stanford grad, I'd say the grad students. Stanford undergrad, definitely.
it was in yeah. Um, but it was the experience. People with 20 years knew how to write the prompt, but also knew when it came back of that's not right. Let me write another prompt. And then no, let me push back. Let me write another prompt. The students were taken for first blush
No,
and didn't know how to
we gotta teach students how to be discerning,
right. And experience does that. We see that even when we use AIs. It's a co-pilot. It's not a pilot.
which
How
makes
to frame.
Microsoft's name for their AI product quite good, isn't it?
Yes, it's one of the better ones. I don't know about Gemini. What was the other one? Claude. Like
I know. I do like
for a name.
Perplexity, and I'm still a big ChatGPT fan, but
I
they've
know.
trained us to like
I
it. So,
I know. My producer's like he likes Claude, ChatGPT because it has all my memory to it. So it's hard to move to new ones. But if we use them back together, but that's what experience matters for that. But yeah, it's just fascinating. Of the I am worried about like the how do you project thought leadership and credibility in a room where everybody now will be in a sea of sameness. I think it's
here's the interesting part. Um, I've taken sort of my life lessons and work, my executive coaching practice, what I've done with businesses, and based on I was already in a PhD program
mhm,
when Cook a year ago sort of slapped me around, and
burst your bubble.
when I originally was gonna do the dissertation on credibility, it didn't feel like I was adding more, like, I had enough, and then I thought, "Well, I'll switch it to clarity," and that didn't feel right either, but as soon as I landed on so remember my first words were executive presence, but as I started thinking it through,
And
it's more than just presence, and that's when I came up with executive abundance. So I'll give you the definition. Executive abundance is bringing abundance to 5 stakeholder groups, not just 1. Having sat on the board of a public firm, what do? We really focus on investors. However, if you want to think about the way the world is today, I'm essentially focusing on a new operating system. Most important, every employee, but particularly since I work with CEOs, the CEO, their staff, they need to have the first stakeholder group is themselves and their family. If things are horrible at home, they're going
yeah,
to spill over to work. That's the internal operating system of the human. Now, the internal operating system of the company is the employees. You need to empower the employees to be successful so they really can deliver good customer service. And if you do that, the third stakeholder group are the customers. And guess what? If you really empower your customers to be excited, they'll take care of the investors.
yeah,
And then we
because
do
the
all
money will
that.
come. Yeah,
Exactly. And we do all that within a community, both a virtual and physical. So I'm doing the dissertation now and the book that will be published. So I said I would make this evergreen, but I can't because I don't. But if you hear this after May 7th of 2026, I'd be curious to see where I'm at the moment and where things are at. But May 7th, 2026 is when the Executive Abundance book gets published because the dissertation I'm doing is called a capstone versus a research.
Okay.
Research dissertations are things like if I was doing a dissertation with 500 thought leaders, I would get approval to do it first, then do the 500 thought leaders, then publish the results.
Okay.
Capstone, you still do the research to see how things fit into the world. By the way, my premise is the one of the biggest problems in Western civilization today is short-termism. And it's the short-termism that comes about because of quarterly financial reports. And so that's the research that I'm doing work on. And at the same time, introducing a new framework, executive abundance, which is a operating system that CEOs and boards can use to be able to bring abundance to more than just investors. And so the capstone will come with a book, two chatbots and training courses. And so that's what the capstone is. There's other,
Yeah.
how to, do, so the dissertation, the thesis is the theory with the academic rigor. The other material is, well, how do you actually deploy it? And so I am excited. Those that are really interested, you can go to executiveabundance.com or go to Amazon and pick up the Executive Abundance book now.
Yeah.
And it is currently on sale.
I can't wait. I'm very intrigued, especially I love the word abundance and the way that you frame that. That's going to be so powerful.
Thank you.
Mindset shift. So if you could hit rewind, would you change anything in your journey?
We could always say that. I could always make it up and go, yeah, I was holding on to a large chunk of Amazon, sold a little bit during the dot bomb, should have held on longer.
Right.
Or I should have put Google or Yahoo. And you could always say those things. But I think when you're living in a world of abundance, what happens is you're learning as you're growing, and who you are today is a combination of things you've done successfully in areas that you really screwed up. And like I said, if until I did the interviews, I didn't realize the importance of being respectful in the way that I am now. And so, no, life is about living for today, doing the best you can for today, and helping others be more successful, bringing abundance to those around you, whatever that is. Sometimes when you retire, it could be a really small group of people, i.e., friends and family.
Right.
When you're in the business world, you have to just find who is that playground you play in. And so when I think that way, no, there really isn't any changes. Came
Was the
naturally.
the
I wish it
path that
happened sooner, but, maybe I wasn't the truth is I must not have been ready.
Yeah. Yeah. It all happened for a reason. Everything kind of worked within itself. Well, what's the best advice that you would give when you sit with these CEOs or, business owners? What advice?
It's
What's the
the
best
it's
advice?
the same advice that you give, I guarantee it. The most important thing, I can't really give anyone advice or guidance till I know what their CPOP is, and I need to understand what they love doing.
What
And
finds them
depend
joy?
and depending on where that is, if that's what they're doing and they're making money today, then what's missing and why? And some of the marketing cookie cutter approaches, I want more. Why do you want more? Because everyone says I need more.
Right.
I have a framework to talk about that. Or let's say they have doing something today, they're making really good money, but it's not where their heart is. Well, then what I often do as advice is say, hey, let's find out where your heart is. Let's figure out how you can focus on that while you still have a financial sponsor in your existing business. So don't throw it away. Right. So the answer is it has to start with the clarity of if we are good humans, by definition, we're servant leaders. We are of service to others. And so if we could be of service to others and it brings you joy to do that, some of the times it's monetizable, some of the times it's not. So then I have a framework which is focusing on 6 sponsors. How do you modify and play with your sponsors? And so to answer your question on a more macro level, I've got, 5, 6, 7, maybe more frameworks. And depending on
Yeah.
the situation, I bring in a framework, which is really a way to talk shorthand. And once we establish the level of trust, and trust comes when the person on the other side recognizes I'm there for them, not for me,
Yeah.
right? I'm there to bring them value. So, but if to answer your question, what's the biggest piece of advice? What's in your heart? What do you love doing? What brings you joy today? And can you figure out a good way that you're monetizing that joy today?
Good. And find it, right? I mean, I know they say passion to paycheck, but I think it goes more deeper than I think it goes deeper than that, right?
Well, what a lot of times what happens, and this is a little bit more generic advice, is what turns out to be somebody's superpower today was at some point in time their kryptonite. And they've spent so much time focusing on overcoming that, that they want other people who look like or feel like them to do it quicker. And that's what brings them joy.
Yeah.
And so
That's
maybe that's
fascinating.
it. Maybe they're looking to past it. That's where
So
for
you
those
help
people,
uncover the superpowers,
and that's what ultimately happens is your CPOP really should embody your superpowers.
right? Right. Okay. I'm excited. What gets you out of bed?
What's really interesting. So I'm a Marshall Goldsmith fan. He's one of my mentors. One of the ways that he runs, he's one of the top CEO coaches on the planet. One of the ways he helps people with their own accountability is coming up with the daily questions. These are the questions that now for him, he needs somebody to call him up and ask him those questions because he can't do it
Yeah.
himself. He wants
Right.
somebody to do it for him. That's really okay. For me, I've now narrowed it down to 9. But the one that gets me up in the morning is that I change the life of one person for the rest of their lives.
Impact.
When I've now
Yeah.
delivered over 1,400 CPOPs, what I could tell you now, this is both good news and bad news. 10% of people, when I share with them their CPOP, they're like, it can't be that simple. I go, uh huh. 10% of the people I have now changed their lives for the rest of their lives. They are just so, they know immediately their websites and their social and how they show up differently. Still, with the other 90%, marketing cookies cutter stuff gets in the way. So whenever I can feel somebody's energy, feel their essence and help them see it for themselves, there's a good chance, although it's only 10%, that I've changed their lives for the rest of their life. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Very good. I love the fact it's all on impact. All right. So if you had to sum up your journey in one word, what would that word be?
Now it was good. You gave me a hint ahead of time and so I knew what it was before you asked, but now let me think based on this conversation. Yeah, it's still the same.
Okay.
The word is fun.
That's a great word. You know, we've asked hundreds of guests and founders. We get a different word. Everybody, even though our themes are very similar of the ahas and
Yeah.
the shitty moments of building a business, but
Have you ever
everyone
thought about
describes
creating a
their
word
journey.
chart with everyone's word? I'd
Yep.
love to see I'd love to see that.
We've done some word clouds. We've done some
A word
fun
cloud, that's it.
videos
Yeah, yeah.
around that. Yeah.
There.
But yeah, it is. I love it. That's why I asked the question because it's everybody has their own unique journey and how they express it. So fun. That is a good one. If you look ahead to the next chapter, what word do you want to describe that chapter?
See, this is where I was wondering if people do this. It's the same word. It's gotta be fun.
That is so we've never had anybody use the same word.
I was curious about that because I'm
No,
like,
yeah.
as soon as
Nobody's
you
ever
asked
used
me,
the
I
same
go,
word.
I use fun a lot in my conversations. So somebody pointed out, Mitchell, that's kind of a if it's not fun anymore, I delegate it or get rid of it, right? And or change what I'm doing so it becomes fun. I at such point in time, like I am kicking. I'm in a sprint right now because I recognize the importance of when I need to publish the book and the dissertation. It's there are probably 5, 6 times in my life where every waking hour, besides in this case satisfying clients
Right.
or doing a little bit of family stuff, is working on my dissertation and that work. And it's still fun. right? It's fun because I know the end product, and I'd say if you could be doing something in life, this is for your listeners, and you wake up in the morning, you go, "Yeah, I'm kinda looking forward to today." Right? Even when bad shit happens,
Right.
I'm still looking
Wake
forward
up
to
with
today.
gratitude. That's right.
Yeah, it's, like, kinda cool.
Yeah. It is funny how, when you just wake and you just think, your gratitude moments. I Before I go to bed, it was another founder give me that advice. I don't know, it was like 2, 3 years ago. Everyone's like, "Journal, journal." I'm like, not gonna sit there and write, but what I
And now
do
my by the way, typically, even though I've written 65 books, journaling is not my cup
is
of
not
tea.
my thing, but I love taking notes, I love gathering information. It's just like, I'm not gonna journal, for that. I am writing a book, so it'll be I'm hoping to get it done before the end of the year. That's my goal. I'm almost done.
Nice.
So cross our fingers there. But no, to journal 3 just to answer 3 questions before I go to bed, and I've kept this notebook, and it's just in like, I flip through it, and just to see the evolution of how I answered and what I answer is has been so enlightening for me and
Ooh,
refreshing. But I answer the questions of what brought me the most joy today. The 2 is what is bringing me before I go to bed, what's giving me angst? um, or anxiety. So is it something that I'm worried about tomorrow? Is it something that like a meeting I had that I didn't do? Well, and just try to write it down and get it out of my head. And sometimes that calms the nerves. And then 3, what am I most looking forward to tomorrow? And it is really just help center and give me
cool.
some reflective, I don't know, insights on the things that I was really angsty about 2 or 3 years ago. It like doesn't even hit my book. So
That's
I'm
cool. Love
so
that. Oh, by
I
the way,
it
if you were able to put all of that into your GPT, I'd be curious to what
yeah,
analysis it would come up with, and
yeah,
write a chapter, put it all in, write a chapter based on my evolution in the last couple years.
yeah. Oh, I'll have to do that. I'll have to transcribe it.
I like those 3 questions. I'm
Yeah,
gonna recommend that to my wife and
it's a
maybe
good
a couple
one.
others to see if it sticks. What I like about it is for many people, it's hard for them to turn off at night so they don't get good night's sleep.
Correct.
Writing
Especially
down
founders. Yeah,
writing
get it out of
down
your
what
head.
your angst is means that it's at least written down so you could put it aside, wake up in the morning, and pick it back up.
Right. And just do it that way. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I do a couple other like discipline things of when I'm feeling super overwhelmed. And I've done this even before I started the business. I was doing this when I was in corporate, big agencies, but I caught brain dumping of like when I'm super overwhelmed to just pen and paper, get everything out of my head of
Mm,
you know, everything that I feel like my to-dos or whatever, or just worries and stress, especially when, I have 4 kids, my kids were younger. I started the company when my 2 youngest were 2 and 4. So it was, managing 6 people's schedules and then also dealing with business and clients and all of that. So yeah, it was just a way of then I could look at it and go, now how do I compartmentalize this? What are things I can delegate? What are things that I need to just structure, schedule out and just knock out? And then what are things that I really need to like plan? And so it was just a way for me but it alleviated so much stress of
nice, nice.
and so I could always tell when I was getting super stressed when I was doing brain dumping like every day.
I'll do it.
This is not good, but those are always
Those are great
some good
tactics.
tips. Yeah,
Yeah,
good
good
tactics.
good tactics, techniques. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for sharing.
you're welcome. Do you have any like routines like that you do that really has
Oh,
helped structure your outlook, your life,
I got
especially the
2.
busyness?
I
Yeah,
got 2. A friend of mine, and I was trying to think the other day her full name, so I can't say it, but she talked about the concept of having a chair of joy. And so it's whatever it is in your house that brings you joy. When you wake up in the morning, I do, and when I get a moment, hopefully I do, I'll grab my cup of coffee and I'll sit in the chair of joy and think about what's next. And then before you go to sleep at night, sit in your chair of joy and have the people around you. My wife says, "Oh, you're hanging out in your chair of joy." And it just makes me smile.
Yeah.
And the
I
other
love that.
is
That's good.
I wanna redefine for many people what the concept of meditation is, right? So meditation's about taking your mind and focusing on one real thing. So you're not all over the place, right? And people do it by humming and taking various chants, but I do mine in a different way. I'm still a fan of playing Pokemon Go. So I combine my meditation with my daily walk of an hour or an hour and a half. And
Yeah.
what happens, I'm so singly like I know the rules, right? And I'm so singly focused on that, other than making sure I don't get hit by cars. Um, that it's really a good opportunity to sort of unwind and focus. Sometimes I take client calls, although when I do that, it's not really the same purposes as
Right.
meditation, but
Right.
it is a phenomenal way for me to get centered.
Yeah. I've started doing, daily walks, which I needed to do, but that is um, I don't my phone's put away. I don't, but it's my just time to chill and
Nice.
just,
Nice.
yeah, let go. So, yeah. I
So
don't
I combine my daily walk with the
with
meditation
your
routine
fun.
of playing Pokemon Go. So yes.
Yeah,
Uh-huh. With a fun word, which of course is so important to me.
absolutely. That's on brand for you, Mitchell. Alright, so if we met a year from now to celebrate, what would we be celebrating? What's a win?
I will have my PhD
Fantastic.
and have formally introduced the concept of executive abundance, so both in doctoral form, where the dissertation is put out there for other people to build on top of, and then all the things that we as thought leaders do, the speaking, the coaching, the real wins that I would love is I am a big fan of partnerships. I'm a big fan of doing things together because it's more fun.
Yeah,
So is having more, whether it's my peers at the 100 coaches or others, people who recognize, hey, Mitchell, this is really cool. Maybe we
yeah,
should bring this into the company. Why don't you come in and just guide me a little bit? Or why don't you come in full blown? That's both external and internal. That would actually bring me joy if I had the fun of playing with more people, bringing about a transformation of not just who their clients are, but their clients.
yeah. Love it. We're gonna celebrate it. I'm manifesting it.
Awesome.
Putting it
Thank
out
you.
there. We're putting it out in the world. Well, I appreciate you being on the episode, and this is fantastic. I think we could talk forever. We have a lot in common. But before we go, tell people how can they learn more about what you're doing? Where can they find you? And buy your books?
Probably the best place I often recommend to my clients to give one URL. So what I'll say is the best URL is just my name. So it's mitchelllevy.com. That's with three L's. So mitchellevy.com. There you'll see the latest programs, the things going on. I had a podcast last night and I realized there was something missing. So hopefully by the time you guys hear this, that's fixed.
Yeah.
But it's the right programs, right activities. If you wanna get it'll link you to the Executive Abundance book on Amazon, and also if you sign up ahead of time prior to May, and I'll give special offers for
Nice.
those who actually, do that. And then, of course, if you're like, "I gotta talk to Mitchell," you can book time directly on my calendar, and all that's at mitchellevy.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Mitchell. It was so good to meet you, and I hope we stay connected.
I would love to do
Keep
that. Let's make
in our
sure
circle,
we
our
make it more than a
community.
hope.
That's right. We will. Well, that's a wrap on today's chaos, but the journey doesn't stop here. If you found yourself nodding along or laughing or just feeling that warm embrace from Mitchell, make sure to subscribe, share, and leave us that 5-star review on Spotify. You can also dig deeper into founder resources and tools or more episodes over at Orange Whip. That is orangewip.com. and that stands for a work in progress because that's what we all are. So until next time, stay curious and stay scrappy. And remember, we are all a work in progress. See you next week.